Terrible, 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 terrible.
5 more times.
Terrible, 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 terrible.
Okay, and testing myself. Terrible. Yeah, okay. We're good on video. Go ahead and count us in.
3, 2, 1, record.
Welcome to the show, everybody. It's episode 94. Aden Richards.
What's up?
What is up? It's an emergency is what's up.
It is an emergency. This is our first emergency pod. I feel like we did one before.
We have done an emergency pod. Probably the last time there was a change like this. Hey, buddy. Sorry, I have to restart us.
Okay.
My mic is too hot. Audio engineer Jason.
We'll be sad or mad or salty. I don't know.
Sad, glad, mad? I do not know. Go ask your dad. All right. That's Dr. Seuss. By the way, all of this is going on YouTube. So count us in when you're ready.
All right. 3, 2, 1, record.
Welcome to the show, everybody. It's episode 94. Aden Richards, it's an emergency.
It is an emergency. And I believe we've done one of these before, but it's been a while.
If it's a real emergency, by the way, listeners, if it's a real emergency, don't record a podcast. Just call the first responders.
Or run away.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Anyway, works. All right.
What's the cause of this podcast?
The cause of this podcast is the exact. Ironically, we talked about this in the last episode, but the actual rules for the new DPC season next season have been released, and we have thoughts, like we always do.
We do have thoughts now. Aden, what's the goal timeline for this episode?
The goal is 25. The hard mark over is 30. I'm saying right now.
Wow, dude, that is so optimistic.
I know.
All right. In that case, I'm going to blaze through this. Hey, the Discord is where you find us if you want to ask questions or something like that, or if you want to meet up with us in Los Angeles at ESL1 LA. That would be the place to do it. Our Discord link is at glimpsepod.com. We're on Twitter. Aden is at OmegaMan Dota. I'm at Shark Butler, and we got merch, glimpsepod.com/merch. 100% of the proceeds from that merch go to audio engineer Jason. Okay, episode introduction. The Dota 2 blog states, introducing regional leagues, Aden. All right.
Yep.
Why don't you walk us through the key point? We're going to go through this basically in the order of the blog post, and we're going to start with the leagues themselves. There will be 3 seasons of leagues, each culminating in a major. Aden, give us some more details, please.
Okay, so they're going to be splitting into an upper and lower division, which we already knew. Two sets of 8 teams. There will be promotion and relegation, which, if you don't follow soccer, means that it looks like the bottom 2 teams from the upper division will swap places with the top 2 teams of the lower division at the end of each partial season. I don't like calling them seasons because even though that's what the blog post calls it, because we think of DPC season, right? So this is like mini seasons, all right?
Yeah,
thirds of a season.
Journey.
Yeah. The bottom 2 from the lower division will be replaced with what I call open qualifiers. The league is so there's 8 teams, so it's a round robin best of 3.
Okay.
Assuming that there's unclear if there's a possibility for like playoff implications at the end, but given the less hurried time scale, I think it's probably at least plausible that they'll have some playoffs if there's a tie.
Yeah, you would think, especially for matters that determine like upper bracket of a major, that would warrant a tiebreaker.
Yeah. They're also going to be scheduled around the clock. So basically, with the exception of Monday, basically there'll be Dota every day for 6 weeks. Typically only one game at a time.
Dude, every Sunday at 6 a.m. Eastern, there's going to be a Chinese Dota match for you to watch. I am just ecstatic.
Okay. So a lot of that was not either known or like not totally unsurprising. The big news is that there's going to be $280,000 allocated to these 16 teams. Well, I guess the top 14 teams apparently for each mini season. So not even like for the overall season. It's like each region is getting almost is $840,000 a year minimum for their teams.
Is that more or less than South America was getting before?
Well, I think maybe less, because didn't Beast Coast win like $850,000, like almost $1 million at TI or something like that? So it might be less, but
like in the season leading up to TI, they sure as shit didn't make that much.
No, they didn't make hardly anything. So this is a huge redistribution of wealth, spreading out, flattening. We've been talking about flattening stuff, and Valve went further than I possibly could have imagined.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so that's the overview. And now we've got some thoughts and some questions. So we have questions from you guys. Thank you. We also have stuff we've read from orgs, fans, etc., players online. And I think, where do you want to start, Lorton?
Okay. Well, I want to start with brand new alert listener, Astro Boosh. What a great name, by the way. I'm pumped for the regularity of the league format, be able to tune into my favorite teams and hopefully follow the games and the seasons more easily. I'm a relatively new esports viewer starting with TI last year, so this seems much better than the current system for me. And he agrees with a Scant quote that you grabbed there, Aiden. What did Scant say? So
Scancer said that basically he loves TNC. And when he was 21, he liked watching Dota 8 hours a day. On LAN. Now that he's 31, he just wants to be able to watch his favorite team, TNC, once a week, which is like what he does for Arsenal, as he points out in the Premier League.
As he puts it, cater well to an aging Dota audience.
Yes,
I resemble that remark. Scant.
Yes. How do you feel about it? I'm of two minds here, so I'm not disagreeing with it, but I do want to give a counter argument.
Well, I'd love to hear the counter because I mean, as an aging Dota fan who's 35 years old and has kids, this new schedule seems perfect for me. And we were just talking about the challenge of watching qualifiers. Is like Chaos had an amazing run and you were super interested in what they were doing and especially seeing their new lineup. And you watched 0 Chaos games despite being a person who watches a lot of Dota because you had watched so much Dota you were burned out. Seems like if you were interested in what's going on with Chaos, you'd be able to catch a game here or there if they're playing for 6 weeks.
Sure. So here's my counter argument. March Madness. For all of you non-US people, March Madness is a month of college basketball. During March Madness, there are games almost like from noon to midnight, right? Maybe even earlier at the beginning.
Right.
And people go fucking nuts and just watch it all the time. Yeah, and you know what?
The least productive day of work at any corporate office is the Friday of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament.
Right. So, but here's the thing. Those people who go nuts, like my students go nuts about it. They watch all the time. They have their brackets, everything like that. I bet you that my students never watch a college basketball game during the season.
Absolutely.
So I wonder if like it all makes sense to me. Like, by the way, I do it with Arsenal and that, but like part of that is you grow up doing it, right? Football's watched on Sundays. Dota's watched in tournaments. I just wonder, like I do the same thing. Like I follow the NBA. I watch very few NBA regular season games. It's not until the playoffs I start paying attention. And I just wonder if that's gonna be the way it is for Dota. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get into the habit of just like checking in on my teams. I don't know. So that's my counter argument. That doesn't mean it's not gonna work out great, by the way. I just that's my devil's advocate.
Absolutely.
Not my counter.
And by the way, I didn't clip any of these quotes because I would never want to give any of these people airtime, but I did see a lot on Twitter of Buzz saying that Dota has just like copied League of Legends note for note, and that sounds true. And we know it was a couple of years ago now, but we had my cousin Alex on, who's a League fan, and kind of explained that system to us, and he did say that like he has watch parties like with his actual friends in real life where they'll make drinks and appetizers and like watch Friday Night League, which sounds like, you know, kind of like what I do some Sundays with my NFL fan friends.
Sure. So let's talk about players for this, right? So I have a couple remarks here on players. So PPD doesn't like the fact that it's only one best of 3 a week, basically.
Wants more games.
Buy that. Okay. Yeah, he wants more games. Like 2 a week. I kind of buy that. Yeah. Like, I mean, I'm sure they're going to be scrimming and stuff like that. They only play once a week, but they often have other tournaments going on during the week.
Okay.
So, like, I mean, they play like the Champions League or whatever, also FA Cup, Carling Cup. So they oftentimes, over the course of the season, which is like 38 weeks, a lot of the teams play 60 games. So it's like 1.5 a week, you know.
Yep.
But also that's more physically demanding, to be totally honest. Soccer is more physically demanding, one soccer game, than a best of 3 in Dota. And I think we all know that because teams can play 3 best of 3s in a day. They can't play 3 full-length soccer games in a day. Like, we just know that. Okay. So that's one objection. I buy it. I don't know if we'll see it change, but they could do a double best of 3 round robin. It wouldn't be that much harder. Heen complained about
Heen was very critical of
Heen was very critical
the system.
And one of his criticisms was essentially he felt that players were not didn't have the chance to weigh in on this enough. And so actually I think this is a good segue because I think let's talk about who this actually helped, who this was developed with. And according to the EG, Philip Aram, who is the EG boss, or CGO, I think is what his title is technically. I don't know what that is. Okay. Doesn't matter. And also Blitz, by the way. So Blitz says, our org seems positive about the change from a stability perspective and the amount of matches and exposure. And Philip Aram says, between the 2 meetings, I organized an email among team operators that included all the TI orgs, plus a few others that joined Dota following. So,
and backing up a second, Philip also said that unlike most Valve decisions, which feel like you're being blindsided by them, this was not the case. This was Valve at their most collaborative and invested. Right. And I feel like those are strong words to use about Valve.
Right. But he does this in another tweet, and we didn't copy this one over or anything like that. But another tweet, he says, like, not many players were involved. And part of that's because there's not a player organization. He even says that. But a big point here is that,
by the way.
This seems like it was developed for orgs, for sponsorship, even to some extent for fans. And it sounds like the players are, I don't know, unsure. And Heen comes from a player's perspective, right?
Yes.
Not only that, and he's a coach of a team, and he probably feels more loyalty to his players than his org, if I had to guess. Which, I mean, makes sense. So I do think that's important to note that this may not all the decisions here may end up benefiting the players, but I think the orgs do, like, a league format is easy to sell, like, to sponsors, I think, right? Because it has stability, right? You know that Secret's going to be in that league every year. You don't know if Secret's going to show up to your tournament. They may pull out at the last minute or whatever, right? We know they're going to show up to this. They also don't have to qualify, right? A major, you can be like, well, I mean, we think the top teams are going to make the major, which they usually do, but you can't, like, it's a little bit weird, right, to say. So I do think that's important to notice.
Sponsors would know farther in advance if a top team is going to make it.
Yeah, and they can have, like, a better idea of, like, what are we going to do? Are we going to get ads? Like, we're going to get ads every, like, 3 days a week for these times. Like, it is a more stable, more predictable environment. And and especially when you have people who are not esports experts investing in esports.
Yep.
Like, who don't really understand it, like, predictable's good for them, right?
Yep. By the way, we're almost halfway to time, but you mentioned the impact on the players. I know, hilarious, right? I wanted to throw in a question from Captain Miko, who asked, is 40 days enough for an off season? So it's like, because of the points distribution, it's very hard for a team to take a break. You would have to like go back through the lower division if you wanted to take off the first major of the year. So, like, you literally couldn't get to any but the third major. So the players are going to have to be playing. And so if they only get 40 days off, is that enough time?
So one of the questions here, I don't know the answer to that, but I also don't know the answer to how much they're going to work during these regional thing. I mean, I get regional leagues, like 1 game a week, right, is light duty in terms of actual how much competitive Dota you play. Now, obviously, the teams are not just going to be doing; they're going to be doing scrims. But how intense is that? They're not doing a 6-week boot camp.
Well, and they might do online tournaments in the middle,
right? And I fully suspect that these teams will online tournaments are going to have struggle, like when the leagues are going on. Can you really, like, also broadcast online tournaments?
I think you can.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe, but I think that teams are going to have to change the way they organize around this. Like, there's been this, like, time where it's been, like, off, you do qualifiers, off boot camp, like, major, right?
Right.
I feel like let's do something like that. And I don't know. I'm not, like, on the inside of this.
Right. But it does feel like, right, a sprint and rest as opposed to a marathon.
Yeah, so I think they're gonna have to change. And so and part of that, I think, like, those boot camps are really intensive and they burn you out. And so maybe that it's more sustainable for players to have this, like, calmer, pace themselves method. I don't know. On the other hand, as you pointed out, our Discord, 40 days is more vacation than many of us get. Especially if it's going to happen multiple times in the year, which it seems to. There's a break between each major and the next league. So
5 weeks, 5 times a year. That would be okay with that amount of vacation for myself. personally. But I recognize that these guys have a lot of off the field responsibilities. So 5 weeks off, if you have to include going home in that, if you have to include some sponsor responsibilities, if you have to include the inevitable ESL third party tournament, I could see that eating up quite a bit of your quote unquote time off.
Sure.
Okay, moving on to money and points, Aden. So let's talk money first.
Sure.
So they flattened the prize pool distribution, which I think we generally like. There was a question about, are the players going to be now underpaid? The top players especially only getting effectively $3,000 a month for the time that they play, which is about half the time.
Yes. It's only 3 6-week seasons, so it's really even less than that. And the answer is yes, if you're in NA, EU.
Yeah, if you only get $15,000 a year for your Dota for the entire year, yes, that would be a pretty tough living, especially
in some regions. In some other regions like South America, it's a great living.
Could be. Yes.
Regardless, it's probably better. I mean, it's better for the majority of players, I have to admit, who are getting almost nothing. Right. The 8th place team currently gets $22,000 for a season, or a part of a season.
Right. How much do you think they were getting before?
Not much.
Yeah, I think they were getting like $1,000 each.
Yeah. What's fascinating to me is the fall off. So like the top 1 through 8 teams earn between 22,000 and 30,000, and then in the lower division it drops from 17,000 to 0.
Yeah,
much more precipitously, which is just seems odd to me. I don't really have like any idea why it happens, but like as MG Wisney noted, he was like, it seems strange that the 2 bottom place teams don't earn anything, which is fair. I mean, it does seem weird.
Not only you do your nothing, but you get kicked out.
Yeah. So Heen also has a quote on this, and we're about to shit on Heen again, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. He said, might as well call this kindergarten and give everyone the same prize pool for participation. Heen, dude, that's what sports do. NFL players get paid even if they're on a shitty team, right? NBA players get paid even if they're on a shitty team. You know why? Because it's their fucking job. You deserve to get compensated for your work, all right? Like, people are making money off you, and you deserve to get a cut of that. All right. So I just think that's silly. And I mean, yes, maybe it should be staggered, but not by that much. Right. Mm-hmm. That's perfectly reasonable. It's weird the bottom 2 teams aren't getting any, but I don't know.
Well, right. And I think that just like in terrestrial sports, you have to assume that the bulk of the money these guys are making, or maybe not the bulk, but these guys the top teams have a substantial side income from other sponsorship deals. Right. And so I don't think the Team Secret guys are going to be hurting for money in this league format.
And this goes to PPD's point. So PPD had an interesting point, which I don't actually know the answer to. He said, why won't teams move to a poorer region? If you're getting paid the same amount no matter where you live, don't you want to live in a lower cost of living location?
All things being equal, which they never are, yes, you would. There's been quite a bit of discussion about residency and how tightly that will be enforced. There was some language in the post that they will enforce residency, but I got it was Philip and Scant and KBBQ, guys who actually kind of know how this stuff works, and they were very skeptical that Valve would be watching that closely for residency type questions.
Right. And the other thing here is like, if it's 6 weeks, you have to be there for 6 weeks. You're not flying in and out every week for your game. I don't think like none of these players are going to do that. So you actually have to be there for 6 weeks, where it used to be only have to be there for like a week for qualifiers. So I get like, I think it's harder to manipulate the residency, or at least there's more of a cost to manipulating the residency as well. Okay, but the other part about it, let me just give one more point here at PPDC. Like, I think the counter argument to this is he was wondering why you don't get paid more if you live in a region where cost of living is higher, because you get sponsorships for that. Mm-hmm. And I think that makes a lot of sense, but almost surely if you're living in a better region, you're more likely to have be getting a salary from your esport. Like Liquid, Secret, they're more likely to be giving their players salary, or they could. I mean, I don't know if Secret does. They may just like all prize. Like Liquid, I'm sure pays their players better than, the South American Infamous pays their players, right?
Right. Not to mention, if you're living in one of those richer regions, you're also more likely to qualify for a major because the major spots are fixed.
Right.
Europe gets more major spots than CIS.
Yes.
For example.
All right, so that's money. Let's talk points, right? We gotta talk
Holy
points.
shit, dude. So this is my one beef with this system, is that winning your local region is worth exactly as many points as being the best team in the world at any given time. Heen was dead wrong about most of his stuff, in my opinion, and was dead right about this. I feel
Absolutely.
like the major should be triple or maybe 5 times as important.
Right. So it's really funny that we advocated reducing how much winning the major was worth, and they have just gone so far the other way. It's almost equally as ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that surprises me is that there's no before it was like if you win the minor, you go to the major, but you don't get points from both. You get whichever's higher.
Right.
Like, why aren't they doing that? Why aren't you if you qualify to the major, winning your league, you get 100 points, and if you finish in the top 8, you get 200 points, and you can't get both. Right.
That would make sense.
That would totally make sense. But they're not doing that. So yes, this is the result of this is that winning, and a lot of people use South America for this. I'm actually not going to use South America because Beast Coast has a very decent chance of finishing the top 8 of most majors.
Yes.
I'm going to use CIS. Right now, Navi and VP, whichever one of them, would both be way better off based on this system than the current one.
Yeah, I
actually a lot more points.
I have a major simulation coming up that we're going to walk through, and yes, whichever CIS team comes out on top, they're loving this.
Yeah. So I mean, and by the way, that changes, right? The old VP would not have been better off with this system. Sure. They would have been better off the old system. So it totally depends on what's happening in your region at that time. But it does seem very strange to emphasize winning your region so much. It's yes, winning your region should matter. And you should have to then prove how much, prove its worth, that win's worth by competing against other teams. I think he had a very good point there.
Yep, for sure. Okay, so now it's time to talk about the major. And the major format is exciting. It's brand new. I'm sure you have thoughts, Aden. So I'm going to try to walk us through this, and I hope you'll just kind of...
Are you going to start with the qualifier, who qualifies from where? I think we may have sort of skipped that.
Sure. So Europe and China get 4 slots. North America and Southeast Asia get 3 slots. CIS and South America get 2 slots. So there are 18 total teams.
And those slots go to different places. That's the other key. The first place team from all regions goes to the playoffs.
Yeah, so I'll walk us through all that.
Fair.
Okay, so your major is going to start with a wild card. That's going to be 6 teams, and these are going to be your 3rd and 4th place finishers from the various regions, and they are going to play a round robin, only 2 of whom will advance to the actual tournament. So
that's, by the way, there's no South American or CIS teams in this.
Right. The top 2 from South America and CIS are the only ones at this tournament, and they have advanced past this stage to the group stage or to the upper bracket. So this wild card is going to be your teams in this current phase. It would have been like NIP, Alliance, eHome, Aster, Adroit, Business Associates. So they're going to play a round robin. And I'm going to assume, for the sake of this example, I think Alliance and eHome would be likely to advance.
Yeah, EU 3rd place and China 3rd place seem relatively safe.
You want to tell me it's NIP instead? Totally fine. Just for this example, I picked Alliance. Your league winners, that'd be 1st place, they automatically advance to the upper bracket. So Secret, Vici Gaming, EG, Fnatic, Beast Coast, Na'Vi. At least right now, those we would consider the top teams in their region. They're gonna win the league, and they're gonna go straight to the upper bracket with no group stage. Mm-hmm. Then you got your group stage, and so these are going to be your 2nd place league finishers plus the teams that advanced from the wild card. So right now you might be thinking, you might see OG, IG, TNC, the TNC who we thought we knew. Right. VP, Chaos, Thunder Predator, and then your tier 2 Europe and China teams like Alliance and eHome. So let's say OG and IG are the top 2 in that group stage. They're going to the upper bracket. Let's say VP and Thunder Predator, they are last place in that group stage. They're eliminated from the tournament. They don't go to the bracket phase at all.
Okay.
And so then you get to your knockout. So your upper bracket, let's say your first round matchups would be something like Secret versus IG, Vici Gaming versus OG, EG versus Na'Vi, Fnatic versus Beast Coast. And then coming into the lower bracket, the losers of those matches would face up against like TNC, Chaos, Alliance, eHome. So this feels a lot like actually a normal major, but it is it's an interesting departure from what we've done up to now.
Yeah, I think I mentioned to you this or the Discord yesterday. It's like, this feels like 18 teams. This feels like it was perfect for a TI group stage. Two groups of 9, eliminate the bottom one. Top 4 of each group go to the upper bracket. It just seems perfect for that. But they want to do something different. I know they want to keep the TI format special. Mm-hmm. Here's my big objection to it. The wild card round has 6 teams and you eliminate 4. So, and then the group stage has 8 teams and you eliminate 2. Mm-hmm. Those proportions just seem off. Like, it seems like I would rather, like, I don't know. I mean, it just seems like it's a weird set of numbers to have, and this format just doesn't seem to make sense for it. You think about like the CS:GO majors, which have 24 teams. Mm-hmm. What they do is they have 16 teams in the first set. 8 of them get eliminated. Half. The next 8 go on to face the 8 seeded teams from the last major, and then 8 of those teams get eliminated. Like, eliminating half every time of each stage, that makes sense to me, right? Or if you're even going to eliminate a third, it's really sense. It's really weird to eliminate 66% and then eliminate 25%. I haven't actually thought of a format that like clearly makes more sense to me, except for having the TI top or the TI group stage. But it just seems weird. I don't know. It just seems weird to me.
Yeah,
put it out there.
Totally fair. Anyway. I have no serious objections to the major format. I think it's going to be exciting. There's going to be high stakes at pretty much every stage. And sure. I think we're going to love it, man.
All right, let's talk a little money at the majors. The majors are down to $500K, which means total prize pool, which means the top team is only going to win $200K. This is a far cry. Remember when the first time we had 3 majors, it was $1 million for the winning team?
Yeah.
Now we're down to $200K. Now, PPD obviously didn't like this, which is fair, but I would like to point out, I did the math.
Yeah.
And the amount of money being sent on the DPC circuit is the same this year as it was last year. Or this year as it will be next year. It's just proportioned very differently.
Totally.
So I don't hate it. And I do think that $500K for one of the things people are like in Dota, maybe in Dota we're just spoiled. We think that the prize pool scales the magnitude. CS:GO majors are $500K. And they happen. And CS:GO majors are fucking big deals. Mm-hmm. You'll pay fucking attention because it's a CS:GO major. I'm not that worried that people are going to be like, 500,000 versus $1 million, it's worth way less. I think people are still going to care about this.
Yes.
I'm not that concerned about that. But I do think it's sort of an interesting. This is a massive redistribution of wealth.
It is. And I don't know. I appreciate the redistribution, especially in terms of the league format. There was also a time when Dota really rewarded being the best in a big tournament like this, and I don't know that I love going away from that, but maybe I'm just dragging my feet in a different place than Heen is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess again, it's a question of if we want to make esports a more professional, a more stable. I mean, people have to use this term stable in a bunch of different ways lately.
Right.
But more like a traditional sports league, which are, for better or worse, they have been relatively stable. The NBA has existed successfully for many, many years. So has the NFL. So right. It's hard to argue against those as stable organizations. This is what you do. The money, there's way less prize money, there's way more salary money. So I'm okay with it in that sense. What everyone does seem to agree with, this is Heen, everyone commentating. Heen, LD, I saw Knoxville, I think, even said something about it. They all agree that maybe we could just siphon $5 million off of
the prize pool from
TI, right? Which is totally fair. I mean, literally, so TI gets 25% of all battle pass or all compendium purchases, right?
Yep.
What if it only got 20%? And 5% went to supplement this. That would be another from last year, $6 million. You could literally double everything. Now they're $1 million tournaments, and everyone's getting $50,000 for participating in the league, not 23 or 25. It's still a good point, and it's also one that Valve is clearly just not that interested in doing. So, for all that we should and continue to advocate for that, I don't know who's opposed to it other than Valve.
Right. Well, and a lot of the speculation goes that Valve puts a lot of stake in having the biggest prize pool in esports, and they never want to give that title up.
Okay. If that's what you want to hang your hat on, that's fine. But I know Dota fans are really up and like pumped about that. I am over that. It was really cool for a while, but now we're like, oh, we beat Fortnite because we had like 31 million. They only had 30. Like, okay, who gives a fuck? Like, I just don't. Right. So I'm sort of over that, and I would much rather have that money be used in a more, what I think is a more productive manner.
Yep. All right, 29 minutes, Aden. Before we get out of here, we've got from Alert Listener and Discord admin Camouflage, a new sponsor. Did you listen to it, Aden?
I have not, actually.
Oh man, it's dope. You're gonna love it.
All right, I'm looking forward to it in the broadcast.
Absolutely. All right, and from Alert Listener Nestico, I think we're all forgetting the most important question about this new format. How is the glimpse gonna look? Boom! All right, while you're thinking about that, Aden, I'll remind our listeners, want to get in on our next watch party, then join our Discord. You can find the link at glimpsepod.com. Remember to follow Aden on Twitter at OmegaManDota. Follow me on Twitter at SharkButler. And thanks to Jason Bates, audio engineer, you can find his portfolio at batesound.com. Aden, how is the glimpse going to look after TI-10?
I don't know yet.
It's a long way from now.
It's a long way from now. And also, I really actually don't know. I mean, we'll still probably keep about the same thing. Maybe we'll do like a mid-qualifier, mid-league check-in, end-of-league check-in, major preview. I don't know. That does sound like not very many. I mean, maybe there'll be third-party events.
Right. If a league is 6 weeks, then it would make sense that we would have a before, during, and after league segment, or before, during, and after league podcast, and sort of a before and after major. So yeah, how many is that? I don't know. Math's pretty tough.
I don't know. That sounds like 12, 15 during the season, 15 during the season. Yeah, that seems plausible. Cool. I don't know. All right. Let's call that maybe a couple like ESL tournament.
Yep. Not to mention the inevitable emergency pod.
Absolutely. I mean, we know the only thing we know is that this DPC circuit format is going to get redone for the next year.
Yes.
Yeah. Other than that, until next time, this is Aden Richards. Back you go. All right. Could have been worse.
Yeah. Good job by you.